What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. Once again, another Galaxy Note 10 comparison. This time I dropped a Note 10 Plus earlier comparison with the S10 Plus. Right now we're going to be looking at the Samsung Galaxy Note 10 and comparing it to the iPhone 10. Now, you might be asking yourself, why are you comparing these two phones? They're kind of out of the ordinary, really. Well, you need to ask yourself that question because every time I drop like a Samsung Galaxy new flagship phone versus the iPhone 10, that always ends up getting a lot of views for some reason. So that means a lot of people are interested in these specific comparisons with the iPhone 10. So believe it or not, there's actually a lot of similarities between these two, but the weird thing is that even though this phone came out in 2017, there's some factors about the iPhone 10 that are actually better than the Samsung Galaxy Note 10, and I think the answer will shock you about which one I would recommend you, honestly. Now, in terms of the feeling in the hand, I'll definitely tell you they feel pretty much exactly the same. We have glass on the front, glass on the back. I have screen protectors on both of them, and they do feel pretty similar, I would say. One big difference, though, is with the Samsung Galaxy Note 10, and I've said this like in every single comparison. When you're actually holding them, the Note 10 does feel a little bit thinner just because it does kind of have that facade because it is tapered off at the edge, as you can see, where the iPhone 10 is just completely flat. Now, that's a pretty big advantage for the Note 10, but also it doesn't really matter because once you throw a case on it, they're going to feel almost exactly the same thickness. In terms of the way they are actually feeling, I think maybe the Note 10 might be a little bit thinner, but again, it's just kind of that facade, especially with the camera cutout kind of being a little bit more apparent on the iPhone 10 than on the Note 10. It definitely sticks out a lot more on the iPhone 10, but ultimately, it's not that big of a deal for me. I think these phones are built very, very well. And if I had to choose one, I couldn't necessarily choose one over the other in terms of the build quality. So I guess that's a good thing for both phones in my opinion. Now on the front, the screen sizes are a little bit different. You have a 5.8-inch screen on the iPhone 10. It's 1125 by 2436, so a little bit higher than 1080p with 458 pixels per inch. And it is an OLED display, I don't know if I said that, whereas the Note 10, it's a 6.3-inch display, so technically it is bigger than the iPhone 10. It's a dynamic AMOLED display at that, but it is only 1080p. Now, I know the iPhone 10 is is closer to 1080p than 1440p, but still, the iPhone 10 has a higher resolution display than the Note 10, but the bad thing is about that is that the Note 10 does have a bigger screen, so that means there's less pixels per inch on the Galaxy Note 10 than on the iPhone 10, and even though this display is still going to be good, I don't think a lot of people are going to complain about it. It's still kind of a backward step that you're spending like $1,000 for a phone that, doesn't have quite as good parts as a phone that came out in 2017. Now, I'm not saying that the display on the Note 10 is bad. Like I said, I think it's a very good display, but I feel like they could have done better, especially for the price of this phone. They really knocked it out of the park with a lot of other things with the Note 10. Just the display is not one of the greatest things about it, to be honest. Now, I'm going to get it out of the way. One of the biggest things and features about the Note 10 would definitely be the S Pen, but when I usually compare a Note versus an iPhone or even versus any other phone, I usually just kind of give it the benefit of the doubt and give it like extra plus points for that because there's nothing really for the iPhone series that's comparable to the S Pen. So, that's a really cool feature and that's definitely a huge plus point for the Note 10. That's one huge reason to pick it up. But there's really nothing to compare it to for the iPhone 10. So I guess, that's automatically just a given for the Note 10. I can't believe I dropped my phone. Now, in terms of software, here's another crazy thing. Even though the iPhone 10 came out before the Note 10, this one came out in 2017, this one just came out in 2019, I am pretty sure that the iPhone 10 will still outlast the Galaxy Note 10 in software updates. Now, what this means is that usually following the same software lifecycle that Apple usually pushes out, it's tend to get 4 or 5 versions of iOS, but I think the iPhone 10 will get an extra version of iOS on top of that because there's a lot of similarities between the iPhone 10 and the iPhone XS, but on top of that, the iPhone 10 didn't start off exactly on iOS 11 when it came out. I think it was 11.1 or 11.1.3 or something. So that means that this didn't technically get all the versions of iOS 11. So I think it's going to get an extra version of iOS on top of that to kind of match with the 10R, 10S, and 10S Max. Whereas the Note 10, following the same kind of life cycle we've seen with Samsung, I'm pretty sure they're not going to, they're not going to go too crazy with the software updates on this. It's still going to get security updates and everything, and obviously official versions of Android when it come out, but they're always going to be putting their One UI base thing over it, so I'm pretty sure this is going to get 3 versions of Android. So another 3 years of support, which is pretty sad if you think about it because it just came out and the 2017 flagship will outlast this one technically, if I'm right. So that's a pretty crazy thing, but I wouldn't really be too worried about it because this one's still getting support. You're just getting started. But on top of that, you do have custom ROMs and, roots up for this thing. So you can go and custom ROM your device, which I would highly recommend you to do eventually. I would not do it right now. But that is a really cool thing that Androids do have where the iPhones do not have. Even though it's a kind of a hard process usually on Samsung phones, you still have that capability where you don't have it on the iPhones. Now that kind of covers up everything in terms of the hardware and software, how both these phones are. Now I'll just hit on the camera for like a second. The dual camera setup on the iPhone 10, triple camera setup on the Note 10, and I'll get into more details in a second, but I'm going to do a whole separate video talking about the cameras and comparing them and all that, so stay tuned to the channel. I know I've been saying that for like a week now, but whenever I'm done with these comparisons, I'll go ahead and do that one. But now talking about the power within these phones, the iPhone 10 has an Apple A11 Bionic chip, a hexa-core CPU, and 3 gigs of RAM on both variants. There's a 64 gig variant and a 256 gig variant. Both those variants have 3 gigs of RAM. The Note 10, however, has the Qualcomm Snapdragon 855 chipset, an octa-core CPU, an Adreno 640 GPU, and there's one variant of the Note 10. It's only an 8 gig variant, 256 gigs inside of it. There's no micro SD card slot within this phone though, which is really stupid. I don't know why Samsung did that. It was a really cool feature. They put it on the Note 10 Plus, but they took it out on the Note 10, so I don't know why they did that. It was the dumbest thing ever. So let's go ahead and do a little bit of a speed comparison. I have some similar apps on both these phones, so let's see which one is going to be faster. Obviously, I'm going to say the Note 10 is going to be faster, but who knows? Maybe it'll surprise us. So as you can see, we have some similar apps on both of these. All the apps are cleared out in the background. Let's go ahead and do BOFA. 3, 2, 1. As you can see, the Note 10 immediately just like gets into it, which is so cool. I love that so much. The iPhone 10 is still loading. Let's go and load up Thank You. 3, 2, 1. And usually with these games, I mean, they're very minor. Actually, the iPhone 10 got into it faster. I was actually not expecting that. Let's get into some gameplay, and you'll be able to see, and I always say this with this game, like, it's a very basic game. Usually I just see if there's any stuttering or anything, so, you know, it's going to be a very, very basic game. But the iPhone 10 won that, surprisingly. Snake versus Blocks, 3, 2, 1. In this game, also a pretty basic game, nothing too crazy. But as you can see, the iPhone and the Note 10 actually got into it faster. Let's go ahead and get into some gameplay, and sometimes there is a little bit of stuttering that happens at the beginning with, but as you can see, no phones as far as I can see actually. How did they even expect me to get through that? That makes no sense. But as you can see, they're both almost identical. There's really nothing too crazy between both of them, so that's a good sign. Let's do Temple Run. 3, 2, 1. As you can see, we're going to have to do this main menu thing again, which happens all the time. 3, 2, 1. As you can see, the Note 10 got into it way faster than the iPhone 10. Again, this is a pretty basic game, but this still gives you an idea of, you know, the loading speeds. You know, even for a basic game like this, the Note 10 is still going to get you a little bit further, or not further, but, you know, better into the game or faster into the game than the iPhone 10, which is pretty crazy. Let's go and do Fruit Ninja. 3, 2, 1. And it's looking like the Note 10. Oh, no, I knew it. As soon as I said it, I was like, why am I even saying it? Because that exact opposite is going to happen. The iPhone 10 actually got into it faster. But here's another interesting thing. I've said this in every single comparison. If you look on the Note 10, you can see that the game is pretty much cropped on the top and bottom. So even though it has a bigger screen, you're kind of even getting less viewing angles or less viewing area that you can see on the Note 10 than on the iPhone 10. As you can see, it like crops off right here and up there, where the iPhone 10 kind of bleeds over even into the notch. Now, it's not that big of a deal. Over time, game developers are going to get better at this and change the aspect ratios and everything, but that's a pretty crazy thing. I was not expecting that. Let's do Paper IO 2. 3, 2, 1. And I think technically speaking, the Note 10 got into it faster. Let's get into some actual gameplay, and this is going to be extremely hard for me to do, but I'm going to try my best. You can kind of see that they're both almost the same. There's not one that was like way stuttering than the other one. Let's see if I can get into a different game. Okay, got it. And you can see, I mean, there's not one that's like way faster. As far as I can tell, maybe there is, but I'm looking at the viewing angle of my camera and I'm not really seeing one. So maybe you guys can tell which one is better or smoother or whatever. I don't think one is necessarily faster. I'm surprised I can play two at the same time. Let's do Real Racing 3. 3, 2, 1. And you can see technically the Note 10 got into it faster than the iPhone 10. It is requesting me to download stuff, but that was way after this one was already loaded. So I would probably still end up giving the benefit of the doubt to the Samsung Galaxy Note 10 in my opinion. So that pretty much covers it up for the speed comparison. I'll definitely tell you in terms of RAM management, they're probably going to end up being the same. The Note 10 will end up being better overall because of the additional RAM. With my iPhone XS and Note 10 comparison, I also found that I think the iPhone XS just wasn't doing as good of a job as the Note 10. But if we go back, you can see that technically speaking, the iPhone X is reloading the BOFA app where the Note 10 was able to just keep it up in the open. And as you can see, it kept that one in the background. So stack. and it's kept the same. This one was actually a little bit smoother when I got back into it. Tempo Run, as you can see, yeah, some apps are going to restart, some are going to keep them open, but I think the Note 10 will overall do a better job at that. Now that pretty much covers up the speed comparison aspect of it. I'm going to hit on the cameras for like 20 seconds, and like I said, I'm going to do a whole different video, so don't get too upset that I'm not going too in depth. I'm going to make a whole dedicated video on it, because if I did it in this video, it'll end up being like 30 minutes long. The Samsung Galaxy Note 10 has a triple camera setup. As you can see, the iPhone 10 has a dual camera setup, two 12 megapixel sensors on the iPhone 10, whereas on the Galaxy Note 10 you have two 12 megapixel sensors as well, but an additional 16 megapixel sensor. And I'll definitely tell you, I've always found Samsung cameras to be better than iPhone's cameras, at least in the last couple of years. So I will probably give the edge to the Note 10 Plus because of the additional features, as well as the software. The software adds a lot to the camera experience. And that is something that Apple has kept pretty minimalistic for the most part. Really, the last thing they added was like portrait mode and like live photos and things like that. But Samsung just adds a lot more functionality within their stock software. So I'll probably end up giving the edge to the Samsung Galaxy Note 10 in my opinion. But like I said, wait a couple days for that iPhone 10 versus Note 10 camera comparison. So I'll go a little bit more in depth at that time. Now talking about the battery life, so I will tell you that even though I'm kind of mad about Samsung because they decreased the size of the Note 10 battery coming from the Note 9, I will still say this phone has better battery life than the iPhone 10. The iPhone 10 has a 2,716 mAh battery, the Galaxy Note 10 has a 3,500 mAh battery, and without a doubt, I'll definitely tell you, bigger batteries tend to mean better battery life, so even Android versus iOS, I don't find the software taking up that much more battery life nowadays. Before, yeah, but One UI and stock Android, all that stuff, they've gotten better over time, and I'll definitely tell you that I do think that the Samsung Galaxy Note 10 will do a better job at keeping your battery life, than the iPhone 10. But another cool thing about the Samsung Galaxy Note 10 is that it can reverse wirelessly charge other devices. So you can actually go charge an iPhone 10 from your Note 10, but the iPhone 10 cannot charge the Note 10, if you know what I mean. So it's a really cool feature for the Note 10. I really, really like that. And to kind of sum up this whole entire comparison, man, I think overall the iPhone 10 is a great phone, obviously, but again, you're comparing a 2017 phone to a 2019 phone. This phone does have way more features and everything, but I still think the iPhone 10 is a very good phone. This is my main phone I use every single day. Even though I own the XS, I own this phone, I own all the phones. I use this phone every day because it's a good phone. There's nothing really wrong with it. It doesn't have any crazy faulty features, things that messed up the phone or anything. So I'll definitely tell you, I think the Note 10 is the better phone overall. It's not worth $1,000 in my opinion, but it is a better phone than the iPhone 10 overall. So, but I'll still tell you, a used iPhone 10 I think is a better value than a brand new Galaxy Note 10. So if you're looking at both of these and you're trying to figure out, man, which one is better deal, this and that, I will definitely tell you the iPhone 10 is a better deal than the Note 10 right now. These are $1,000. These are less than $600. You can probably get these for $550. So I think this is a better deal than this. So I think this is a better deal than this. I'll go ahead and find the cheapest ones I can find on Amazon. I'll link them straight in the description below, both the iPhone 10 and the Note 10. If you guys want to help support the channel, you guys can do that, purchase things through that link. But that is pretty much it, man. If you have any other questions or anything, leave it down in the comment section below. Hit that like button, that will mean so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. Every single subscriber that we get really does count, so it means so much if you guys could hit that. Also, check out the other links down in the description as well. My Twitter, my Instagram, my second channel. All those links are linked down below. I'd really appreciate it if you guys could check it out. But more importantly than everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out till then.